Midlife Catalyst is a podcast where ordinary people tell extraordinary stories of how they are navigating life and doing life differently than the expected societal norms. As I say, daring to get out of the boxes that are often self-imposed on us by others' expectations. If you look into research of Father Richard Rohr, we have two lives. When you decide to start actually living the second life, you begin to live a life of meaning and what brings you fulfillment, joy, and really aligns with your values and purpose for the rest of your life. And some people, it takes longer to get there than others. A lot of times it does take a crisis or major event to decide you want to do life differently. What I hope to do through this podcast is provide people with stories of motivation and encouragement to not wait until you hit a rock bottom or things get bad. But when you have that longing inside of you, that you decide to make that change at any moment. It doesn't have to be January 1st or a new week or a new month or a new year. It can be at any time that you decide, I'm going to do life differently on my terms, what feels right to me and brings me purpose and meaning. So that is really what I'm striving for, searching for, and pretty much putting it on full display for others, because what I have found through grief and sobriety, recovery, and attempting to become a writer is when you immerse yourself in a community of people with similar stories or similar goals, and you open your mouth and you listen to other people, you find a lot more support and strength in numbers rather than attempting to do it alone. This is what the Midlife Catalyst community is all about. Being able to share the stories of not only myself along this journey, but ordinary people discussing significant events that occur along the way, be it death, divorce, retirement, loss of job, your kids graduating and leaving the nest, leaving a difficult relationship, leaving a job you hate, leaving a town no longer fit into, all of those things where, uncheck the boxes that society has said you need to follow as far as a life plan. And it's taking your life and deciding to do things differently and have a little more control of what brings you joy and helps you as the individual live in alignment with your values. And when you realize the power in telling your story and sharing it within a community, but of taking charge and not just living on autopilot because it's what you should be doing, you live a much more joyful, purpose-driven life. And so that's the path that I am on. And one of my main purposes for doing this out loud is through my sobriety recovery journey. There is absolutely no way I would be where I am 4.5 years later after many failed attempts without a community and without opening my mouth and telling my story. I fully believe in the value of community and storytelling in making changes to your life and living into alignment with who you are, which is why I am creating this space, and I love being able to connect with people. Writing is my passion, but with everything that has been going on, I haven't been writing much lately. I thought I would do a pre-release of the podcast to give some updates and background. I am
in Kansas City now. I'm actually recording in my bedroom because I'm practicing the best space as everyone starts encouraging people to have New Year's resolutions, intentions, goals, words of the year, mottos of the year, to take some time and reflect on what this year has meant for you. It's really digging in to planner or journaling highs and lows. I personally record them in my journal and in my planner. That's super important to look back on a week, on a month, to see what I accomplished. Oftentimes when I do that, I find that I'm making a lot more progress than I'm giving myself credit for, which is why I think it's super important to go back through those at the end of the year to see how far you've come and to see what setbacks you have pushed through. I've had many this year, but they're all pretty much self-inflicted. So I've just kept moving forward. I feel like I've reached the things that I want to do. I'm moving in the right direction with my writing and getting this podcast going and several other things. When I look at doing a word of a year, which I have had a word of the year since 2020. And ironically, my word that year was flow. I had no idea how important that word would be. It became so important. I even had it made on a bracelet and I still wear it daily. It got out of my sight for a little bit during the move and it made me very nervous because it just is a reminder that I don't think any word was more appropriate for 2020. I had no idea what was coming. I just knew, coming off of back-to-back really dark years of my parents dying consecutively, that I was out of control, that I no longer had control of any sort of life. Witnessing death and grief will show you that. I just pretty much surrendered and decided to go with the flow of 2020. It really worked out considering the pandemic hit and we were all out of a level of control with anything going on in our lives, in our work, in the world. There was no other choice really than to go with the flow, which I resisted and pushed back on. And by May of the pandemic, I decided I was going to have to surrender. At that point, I fully committed to getting sober, and that has continued. There's no other way that I would have remained steadfast in that journey if I had not gone with the flow. So that was the most appropriate word of the year I've ever had, and it was really based on not a lot of thought or research. I will say I had done New Year's resolutions, written those out for many years, and often they would be repeated year after year, kind of the same 3 to 4, lose 10 pounds, save so much money, and find a better job and drink less. Never to actually get sober, but just drink less. Once I actually got sober, all of those things happened just by the one act. A lot of times we don't dig deep enough into what our purpose behind our resolutions or intentions or goals are to know there's something more significant impacting those choices and those things that you want to change. That, for me, is the true purpose of my next steps in life, of helping people dig way deeper into wellness, into living healthy lifestyles, and that they're not just a singular goal, that they're actually woven together. And once you change one, they're going to radically impact and change the other. Self-care is not just a spa day or bath or to get more sleep. There are actual step-by-step incremental habits that have to be changed that actually build to self-care. So 2021, my word of the year was trust. I came upon that word as I went back through my journals of 2020, and that word was repeated over and over again in my writing. And it basically meant that I needed to trust myself in making decisions. And that too worked out well in that I trusted the process of sobriety. I trusted the process of taking on a new job role. I trusted the process of entering a new relationship. All of those things, other than sobriety, came to a close this year, but not because I ever lost trust or faith in myself, just because it was time. 2022, my word was connection, and I will go into much deeper depths on the why of that, but I really saw I needed at that point to create some deeper, meaningful connections with other people. Now that I had gotten consistent sobriety to go out into the world, I had highs and lows. But like I said, I entered into a good relationship, so that was a success. But I am still a work in progress on connection as far as new connections. If I have been with someone or I know someone, then I'm pretty solid in deepening those, and I'm pretty solid in connection of purpose and community. 2023 was the big word that I am still working on, and that word was happy. That is because two of the most important people to me in my life have and did tell me that they just wanted me to be happy, and that I have yet to achieve that state consistently. I'm not sure that it's a word of the year or can be controlled. Again, it goes back to those daily wellness and lifestyle habits. But I will say, leaving a profession I was not happy with and that did not bring me fulfillment certainly has put me on the trail towards happiness, but that is still pretty elusive for me. I could not come up with a word. I think I had stretched myself so far the year before with chasing a word that really didn't come to fruition that I did not have a word and could not come to a word for 2024. Well, it was mid-January, around Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, that I was running a half marathon in Key West that I had not trained for, was not prepared for. And I pretty much came to the motto of just do it. So what? If you don't finish, no one cares. You know the lay of the land. Get off the course, pop into a coffee shop or a hotel, call an Uber, and go back to your hotel and call it good. So what? No one cares, really. Like, you're not qualifying for the Olympics or a job or anything of any purpose. It was just something fun that I wanted to do. And so what? So through that race, which I did finish in my slowest half marathon time ever, but the most fun and fulfilled I'd ever felt coming off of a race. I took it super slow. I enjoyed every moment. I took a lot of pictures. I embraced watching the sun come up along the ocean and really was just present and in tune and not hurting myself by trying to hit a pace and a time that I wasn't prepared for. Just do it became my motto for 2024. A revisit to Nike and the 90s, but I think everything always comes back, and that became my motto for 24. Just do it. Quit your job, leave your profession, move, or get rid of things, try things. So what? If it doesn't work, you can always go back. But if you don't try, you're never going to know. So far, because I trust myself, everything I've tried either works out or I decide it wasn't for me. My other motto of 2024 was, so what? So what if it doesn't? You're not impacting anyone other than yourself. I don't have a family to feed. I'm a sole provider. I don't have to worry about putting kids through college or paying for cars or insurance other than my own. As long as I can take care of myself, so what in my choices and decisions. That's a glimpse into word of the year and what it means to me. I have a couple of ideas by going through my journals and writing of this past year for what 2025 is going to look like. It's really leaning towards simplify to multiply the benefits in your life. I don't believe that you have to be prepared on January 1st and that these things take shape in January because you have a whole year, not just a month. They can change. That is my thought and feeling. If a word doesn't feel good to you or if life hands you something, don't get stuck. Find something else. I want to offer a month of self-reflection in January. I know 24 was a rough year for a lot of people, myself included, and we just have to keep moving forward. The Midlife Catalyst Podcast, a place where ordinary people tell extraordinary stories of making pretty radical changes in their lives to live into their full, authentic selves. For me, it took some pretty dark and tragic events to happen before I decided to make those changes. And what I hope by bringing and sharing these stories and building this community is that people don't have to wait for midlife or for a crisis to hit to make change and live into a life that brings you fulfillment. So, if I was the Grinch last week, today I am bringing all of the festive Christmas joy. I just want to say thank you to those who are following along on this journey. One of the key pieces of change is that you start throwing things out there and see what sticks. And I have been overwhelmed and forever grateful for the positive feedback and um, texts and subscriptions that I have gotten from people. I really do appreciate people trusting me to follow along and read my authentic life unraveling, what I have learned through sobriety and death and changing professions and attempting to become a writer is the power of community and sharing your story and hearing other people's stories to know you aren't alone, but that talking it through really does help for you to know you're on the right path. For me, these are little checkpoints that, as a recovering perfectionist, it's really hard to not have the perfect technology and the perfect setting and everything ready to roll out. But it only comes with time and practice. That is what I continue to do with this community, is to show up and put what I have for this day out there. Some days it's getting a bit more festive and some days it is not, but that is life and that is reality. And those are things that if people would be a bit more open about, I think would encourage more folks to dare to do things differently and make some changes. What I'm also beyond grateful for is the reception and reaction to the Groundhog Day reset. That is going to be the first virtual gathering where we will have a community come together. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will link the invite in the show notes, and I'm going to try to figure out how to go live from this platform into Facebook, because right now it's just set up as a Facebook Live, which I know not everyone has Facebook. So I don't want to keep certain people from joining. But just know coming February 2nd, when all of your January um, attempts at new habits and changes have maybe run their course and you're no longer operating off of willpower and white knuckling it and want to really dig deep into why you want to create some lasting change in your life or just get a revamp on what you have been successfully doing. We are going to start that in February. So I'm looking forward to that. And having my word or motto of the year, shifting through all of those possibilities to come up with something. It may be a mix of several things, but having intentions and some purpose for the year is super important. Yesterday, I did a very intensive 2-hour reflection and releasing exercise on 2024 and taking a kind of month by month glance at everything that happened, and a lot happened. I think that's really important to pull out your planner, make a list, look at your calendar, see all of the events that occurred in the past year. It was a very hard and heavy year for a lot of people. And stopping to give yourself some grace and praise for getting to this point is really important to see those milestones and markers that you've hit. We will reflect on those and move forward in 2025. I thank you for being on this journey with me. Some days we show up in makeup and hard pants, and some days we come as we are, and that is going to be how it is moving forward. You come as you are.
I did a couple of things with today's podcast. One being to demonstrate that I did actually finally get into the holiday spirit and wear several of my sparkly festive Christmas outfits for the holiday season. Two, to demonstrate that I never ever waste a hair and makeup day. Those are rare of late. And so when I go to that effort, I certainly am going to use it to my benefit to actually record as much as possible. But most importantly, what I really wanted to do is be able to tie together the purpose and function of this podcast, of my Substack, and of this community, and to bring some clarity into why you may want to join or what it could bring for you or for friends that are on this path that we're searching for a different, better way of doing life, a way where we're not escaping ourselves and we're living authentically in alignment with our core values and the reasons that we're here, that we're actual human beings, not human doings, and slowing down and what we enjoy in this life. It has been a long road for me and a continuous struggle and journey. Through sharing that and hearing other people's stories, I hope that eventually I get to a place where I can rest and am not continually seeking something, but the something is within. That is what I hope to help not only myself, but other people to find. You may be wondering who I am to even think I have the authority to do this. I do have a master's in clinical psychology. I have a master's in educational leadership. I have over 2 decades of leadership in education, primarily focused on behavior change and systems, structures, and organizational change. That is really a passion of mine, is not only continuous growth and development of self, but of others, and creating the systems and structures where those changes are possible. That combined with 4+ years of sobriety, doing extensive work in recovery, obtaining a health and wellness certification gives me a foundation in that I am a continuous learner. I want to grow, do better, and do more, which is also exhausting, but I know there is more to be learned. There are better ways to do life, and that's what I'm striving to find. Happy holidays. And soon I will probably be in all black attire because that I think is appropriate for January and wintering. Until we get to that place, I'm going to stay festive for a few more days.